What qualities do you think about when you think about the ideal version of yourself? It's probably someone who's confident, who's authentic, who's funny, witty, successful, but certainly not someone who is obsessed with themselves, narcissistic, and just completely stuck in their own world, stuck in their own world of self improvement. What if I told you that self help is actually putting you at risk of becoming a narcissistic person? What if I told you that self help culture right now actually has taken a very wrong turn into the direction where people care more about themselves than they care about other people? What if I told you that self help is making a lot of people worse? Okay, so the self help industry is a $40 billion industry right now. And not just that, it's growing rapidly, okay? It's expected to double by 2032. So this is growing. And how are the people in this industry making their money? They are, and I'm sure you heard this a bunch of times, but it's true, they are profiting off of your insecurities. So, what is in their best interest? Their interest is to keep you coming back, to keep you purchasing more workout clothes, more supplements, to keep buying courses, to keep consuming this self improvement content. They profit if you stay the same. Okay? Do you see the irony here? It's supposed to be self improvement, but what actually keeps them making money is you staying the same. So I would always recommend you to take all this self improvement advice with a pinch of salt. And especially the advice by people who make their whole brand about self improvement. These are people who display this perfect life. They display this recipe. They act like they have the solution. But actually, I don't think there's a one size fits all. Self improvement is most importantly an individual journey, something you have to develop for yourself. It's something personal. And there's no one size fits all. And you can't just copy paste advice from a person that you would like to be like. And the problem is that this is what the people are selling, okay? There's kind of this promise, I think, sometimes actively being made and sometimes like just sort of under the covers, kind of the message that is being sold. If you do A, B, and Z, you're gonna look like me. You're gonna be like me. You're gonna live the life I live, or at least the life that I portray. And this is not true. I think that a lot of self-help advice is actually making people worse and is making people more obsessed with themselves than ever and leading us onto a wrong track. Because what is actually making us happy is social connection and is having some kind of responsibility. I'm not saying that you have to be the most altruistic human being ever in order to be happy. It's not wrong to have a skincare routine, to journal sometimes, to go to the gym, and to actively make time for yourself. Self respect is crucial to your well being, okay? Making time for yourself is crucial. Nobody is being helped if you just, completely sell yourself to other people. A lot of people are doing that. They're living lives for others, and this is not right either, okay? But it's also not right to completely focus on yourself and to make yourself the only priority in your life. There's a fine line between self care and self centeredness, and I think the direction that the self improvement community leads towards is the self centeredness part. And they're blurring the line between personal growth and just some form of performative self worship. Okay, so I said it. Self help is making you narcissistic, but what does narcissism even mean? I think that is a term that is kind of thrown around a lot and used in the wrong context. So let's define it first, shall we? Narcissism is basically a personality disorder, and it is defined as having grandiose views of the self, having active fantasies involving your own personal success, having a sense of entitlement, feeling like you're better than other people, and having the assumption that you're special or unique. Usually, these people have a very arrogant attitude, and they also are defined or characterized by their desire for constant validation and constant admiration. And this is what they also seek in personal interactions. So they don't connect with people, or they don't talk to people to form some sort of connection, but rather what they're doing is kind of exploiting the other person for their own good. They're also envious of others, of other people's possessions, of other people's success, because they feel like they um, deserve that more. And also, what they have is they have little empathy. So they can't really put themselves in another person's shoes, which is logical because they're so concerned with thinking about themselves that the thought to think about others doesn't even arise. They don't have the ability to change their perspective and to kind of empathize with the other person. Okay. And also, from this arises the willingness to exploit others for your own good. If you're concerned with your own good and your own good only, other people kind of become like figures on a chessboard for you, okay? And you just use them, you manipulate them to serve you. So, yeah, this is what narcissism is defined as. And I'm not saying that self improvement is also defined by these characteristics, but I do see some similarities. Let me explain to you which ones I see. We kind of have this hyper individualism in the self help community right now. A lot of people are saying to cut out toxic people from your life, to cut out people who are not serving you, to cut out people who are less successful than you, who have a limited mindset and don't move you forward. And that is not wrong per se, but I feel like it has something of this interpersonal exploitativeness that narcissism has as well. You're seeing people as tools, and if they're not good enough anymore, if they're not serving you anymore, you just let them fall because you don't value what you have with these people. You don't value the connection. You just value what they give you and how they make you feel about yourself. Okay? And this is also lack of empathy, quite frankly. If you just cut out everyone who's not serving you right now, that is pretty cold, don't you think? If you just see relationships as transactional, people as replaceable, this is a narcissistic tendency for sure. So I think what is important to remember is that relationships are more than just tools. They are more than just ways to move you forward in life. They give you more than that. They give you meaning. They give you positive emotions. And also, especially if you've been friends with someone for a very long amount of time, this is something that you can't replace so easily. So I really want you to remember that. And another thing or another tendency I see is that a lot of the times these self-improvement people are kind of telling you to put productivity over people. So they say, okay, you need to just go cold for a while, you need to disappear for a while, and then come back and prove everybody wrong. Do you see how this again is, or has some kind of narcissistic vibe to it? This is kind of this idea of, okay, I'm going to come back and everyone is just going to be like, oh my God, what happened? This is exactly what these fantasies about your own personal success are about. You don't have to go cold. You don't have to go solo for a while. You don't have to prove everybody wrong because quite frankly, those people are not your enemies. This is what self-help culture paints a lot of the times. They tell you that other people are there and they just want to hold you back. They want to keep you from your personal success. That might be true for some people, but there's a large amount of people who actually want to support you, who are there to support you and who can actually help you improve. And so this advice of going solo and just isolating for a while just working on your own personal success is, I think, very wrong. And it keeps you stuck in isolation and eventually also promotes depression because we need social connection to be happy, to be successful. and it actually improves our ability to self-regulate. It improves our discipline, and this is what we need in order to improve ourselves. Do you see how there's no self-improvement without social connection? So telling you to go to grind alone all the time is manipulating you. So how do we not fall into that trap? A person who has a researcher who had a very good take on this is Seligman. He actually researched depression and learned helplessness for a while, and then he later turned to positive psychology, which is basically the science of happiness. And he defined a few factors that are essential for living a happy and successful life. Here they are. First of all, you need positive emotions, obviously. So you just want to have positive feelings and emotions such as satisfaction, joy, contentment in your life, right? But how do we reach these positive emotions? You need engagement. You need some kind of experience that puts you into the flow, some kind of meaningful thing you're doing. And surprise, this engagement, this activity is not just connected to you. Okay? You're not going to become a happy person by just going to the gym, journaling, and meditating all the time. Usually, we experience engagement and flow in relationship to somebody else. This could be a job. This could also be some kind of project you're doing with other people. But usually, meaning and engagement is experienced in connection to others. We need relationships. This is the next factor. There's a direct connection between the quality and quantity of social connections and our contentment in our life. And positive relationships are the most consistent predictor of a happy life. Okay? So this is another very important factor for happiness and for self-improvement. Meaning is the next one. You need a sense of purpose and meaning in your life. You need to have a bigger narrative. You need to have a story. You need to have an aim that you have in mind, something you aim at. We're aiming creatures as human beings, so we need some kind of meaning. If you have a why to live for, you can bear almost any how. Okay, so if you have a meaning, it makes you resilient and it makes you also endure hardships. And this meaning is usually connected to other people as well. And the last one is accomplishment. Here, self-help culture is not going wrong at all. Accomplishment is based on the experience of achievement and progression toward goals. And this is very important. I'm not saying that it is wrong at all. Self-help culture definitely has a point here. We need accomplishment. We need to reach goals. This is also biologically proven. Dopamine, accomplishing something, is connected to dopamine. We need that. But we shouldn't just focus these accomplishments and goals around things that we want to reach for ourselves. We need to follow compassionate goals in order to be happy because we're just social beings. So you should focus on intrinsic goals rather than extrinsic ones. Define what really matters to you outside of validation, okay? Viktor Frankl already in 1946 argued that meaning comes from taking responsibility beyond yourself. So, what I would advise you to do if you're lacking meaning right now in your life is to go inside yourself and ask yourself if maybe you're too obsessed with yourself. What you should do is to actively listen without waiting to speak, validating others' feelings even when you disagree, and mediating conflict without defensiveness, but rather with curiosity. This is the complete opposite to narcissism. Talking to other people is not there for you to feel or for you to kind of mirror yourself. It's there to actually develop, like for both parts to further develop through the conversation. And you can't do this by just waiting till it's your turn to say something and waiting to be heard. So I hope that I could somehow show you how to actually self-improve without falling into this narcissistic trap. Let me know what you think about this, whether you see the connection between popular self-help culture and narcissism as well. And I hope you guys could take something from this video. I see you guys in the next video. Bye.